used to it being over here.
That was taken.
You remember back in the old days, there was the back row bunch at the Methodist church?
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, he's the back row bunch. Jeff is over there.
Yes, I do remember that. I was at a funeral there this weekend.
There he is.
And it was
Oh,
so
there he
funny, I
is.
didn't realize it.
That's
I
what.
gravitated to my spot that I sat with my finger and sat there. That was just funny. I was like, it was just kind of funny how
You gotta look around when you go to these churches.
All right, we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. I've asked Councilman Bashir to lead us in prayer and pledge.
Pray with me. Heavenly Father, we come to you now to thank you for another day, Lord, another couple weeks. And I do want to pray, Lord, thank you for preserving those who, from the wind and the firestorms that have happened across the state. I do pray that you be with those who are affected and the families who have, the few families who lost loved ones. I do pray for the recovery efforts as well and safety for the workers that are present in those areas, especially the Manford area. And we also pray that we would just seek to honor you in the handling of our city's business, and that we would recognize that every decision made carries weight for the future, and that we would just seek to honor you. I pray this in the name of our Savior Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we got roll call, please.
Lamar,
Here.
Shropshire,
Here.
Bradshaw. Here. Brashears,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Trammell,
Here.
Gantier. Here. Smith.
All right, if you don't mind, we need to excuse our clerk, Hannah. She had a family emergency today that she needed to take care of. And our city attorney called this afternoon. He is not feeling well today and had to go home suddenly. So with that said, we do have quite a few petitions from the audience tonight. We'd like to remind everybody the 5-minute rule. We have 5 minutes per. The council is here to hear you, not to converse with you. So that said, I think the first one on our list, I don't see David Love here. Is David here? Nope. Okay. Nina Roberts, you're up.
Okay, we have given all of you all a business card, and we just want to let you know that the Mays County Grace Foundation is up and running, and there's a QR code on the card, and you can visit our website, visit our Facebook page, follow it if you haven't already. Marshall is going to introduce its spring break, so we're just the board members here tonight, and she's going to introduce our
So, of
board
course, you know Nina Roberts. This is Sharon Barassi, and I'm Marshall Morrison, and we also have Jenny LaFay, Tammy Rowland, and Marty Miller on our board.
And we are, God is opening doors like you would not believe. And we're excited, and we would love if you want to contact any of us and just talk to us about what we're doing and what's going on. We would love to sit down with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We did good, under 5 minutes. Would anybody else like a card, if you would, let me know.
So I had down that Marshall, you were going to be the second one, but if you're going to do it together, that works too. So appreciate that. Drop the Rick Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Several weeks ago now, I made a phone call to Councilman Lamar. I told him probably just because I'm an old man with not a whole lot of things to keep him busy, I wanted to talk to him about the community building. And I think I said some things that weren't real complimentary. Because I said the last time I was in there, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed for our city. because of its condition. And I'd already heard the stories about, the roofs coming in on the kitchen, and they got it pried up with this and that and so forth. And all I thought was, why? Why? So I ran into Councilman Lamar just recently. In fact, he was sitting outside of the community building, and I was delivering my wife there because she was going to be doing something inside. And he told me about the fact that 2 properties had been sold that were part of 4 properties that were left to the city by Mr. Graham. And that a decision needed to be made as to where that money was going to go. Now, first of all, I'm not sure whether or not the PYO building is sold and you have the cash, but I understand there was a gravel pit and there's potentially $80,000 now for the city. And I know the city has problems financially, but I'm here to tell you that I believe that Mr. Lamar's idea is the proper thing to do. That $80,000 should go to repair or keep repairing the 2 properties that still exist. I jokingly said to myself, if I pass away today and I happen to get to talk to Mr. Graham, if I'm so lucky that I'm in heaven, I don't want to tell him that we're not taking care of those buildings. But also let me say that when I came here, my family came here in 1954, my older sister took me in there to the library. And then when I was 12, my family went there to the community building for Christmas party held by GRDA, which was my father's employer. We were all given a turkey, and I got to meet Lieutenant Governor Nye. And Governor Nye got all 200 or how many ever people were in that room, it was packed. He told us all to stand up, and we played Simon Says. This is Lieutenant Governor of Oklahoma. And then the next time I was in there, or at least the memorable one, was when my daughter won Best of Show of the art contest. And that art contest brings in lots of people not from Pryor. If you've not ever been there to it, you do not recognize how much money comes into town that week. So I say all of that to say that the only thing I would think would be right would be whatever it takes. If we can find the grants, if we can do this and do that, I think that building should be not only repaired, but put back to a condition that you could be proud of. Thank you for the time.
Sula Robertson?
Hello, I'm Sula Robertson. I graduated from Pryor Schools, and I also worked for Pryor Schools, and I worked for Pryor Veterinary Hospital. I go to church in Pryor, I shop in Pryor, and I participate in events in Pryor, and currently I'm on the board of the Arts and Humanities Council. Although my residence is not Pryor, I consider Pryor my home. I would like to speak to the question concerning needed repairs to the city-owned building at 6 North Adair, where currently the Pryor Area Arts and Humanity Council is housed, and a local chapter of the Girl Scout meets there too, as well as the Graham Hall, the building that can be rented for special events, and the Arts Council rents it often for special events. Yes, this building needs to be repaired. The Arts Council has been using this location for several years now. We've done what I call spiffied it up, and that means to make the building look as presentable as possible. We did this in order to present art classes for the community, as well as present artist shows to highlight the talent in this community and also in Northeast Oklahoma. At this time, we've scheduled a new class at least once a month. February, we had a basket making class. March, we had a 2-day block print class. Also in March, we had an Aboriginal dot print class. And also, we're getting ready in April to have a 2-day ceramic class. So we're using the building. And also, we've got 3 art shows scheduled through April and through the summer. We'll continue making classes scheduled there through the fall, as well as have the annual Northeast Area Art Show, which in the past couple of years has had almost 200 entries. That's a lot of people coming into the building. During all this time, the building has not had any major repairs. We gently move cable wires from old city computers so that people won't trip on them. We put them next to the wall. And then we replace toilet seats because they've got to be replaced. And then we look for outlets that work so that we can plug in something. A few years ago, we were really worried when the kitchen of the Graham Hall caved in. It was deemed that the actual hall itself could still be used. So we were relieved about that. But then we could not go into the kitchen, and we told everyone helping with the art show and different events that they couldn't go into the kitchen too. Then the hall had leaks that caused the paint to peel away from the side of the wall. This was just before an art show, and we were worried that the art was going to be damaged if we had big rain. And then the paneling of the walls warped, and then we were worried, was the art even going to hang on the wall? Well, we continued spiffying up the place with strategically placed displays. Of course, Pryor Arts and Humanity wonders, is this building going to hold up so that we can continue to use it? A lot of people come into the building. It's used so many ways, and it has such great potential. And it'd even have greater potential if we repaired it. All of us are proud of our town, and we wouldn't be here if we weren't proud of it. So we want to be proud of this building and all of Pryor buildings. Money's been set aside, that's what we've been told, to start making a difference, and the difference would be to repair the building. And thank you for letting me speak today.
Jack?
Evening, guy. And Lori. I can tell you a lot of stories about these buildings that we're talking about, but suffice to say I've got a long personal history with all of them. They're important to me from my personal experience. For others, they're part of our city's history. Sometimes it's important to keep the buildings like this for what they can be or what they still are. Sometimes it's better to let them go. I was part of the ad hoc committee a couple of years ago that tried to find a way and a means to save the PYO building. Other people have tried to do that previously, but we didn't find that out. Our community is more than any building or all the buildings. The community is the people that live here. The community is the sum total of every person who lives in town or out of town who considers themselves as part of the community. All these people behind me are included in that. The buildings I mentioned were all given to the city at some point. Rick talked about that. The city was entrusted with them. So we're entrusted to maintain them for the benefit of the community. That's not the city, that's the people. The proceeds from the sale of the PYO are not going to make or break anybody's budget. But the money comes from the sale of property that was given to Pryor. To spend the money on short-term expenses is a disservice to those who gave the property in the first place and to those who have invested time and energy in the use of the buildings and the upkeep of them, Sula mentioned. The money also isn't going to cover much of what's needed to fix up either the old bank building or the community building. But I think there can be seed money to springboard interest in fixing up. Obviously, people that have already talked, there's interest in keeping the community building a viable building. So what's happening here tonight can be a springboard to raising interest in raising private funds to renew these facilities that I believe are important to the present and the future of our community.
Thank you. Houston?
Good evening, counselors. I bring good tidings and good news. What I'm about to hand you is what's called an impact report on the program that we successfully, and I say we, the Chamber of Commerce, for those who don't know, I'm the president and CEO of the Pryor Area Chamber of Commerce. And we had a great program called the Pryor Palooza. I'm sure that everybody heard it. Anybody that tuned in to our Facebook live pages, posts when we were doing this, we were very excited about the program, and it was very successful. Did everybody get one of these? Mayor, did you get it? Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go through a few numbers here real quick. So the Pryor Palooza was a program that we partnered with We Street, and then the Main Street program also partnered with us. We Street was the company that actually provided the funds for us to be able to do this. And so the dates that we ran this program was November the 21st through January the 6th to include shop small and shop local. So it was during Black Friday, Small Business Saturday. We wanted to make sure the program was during that time so that we would maybe attract more patrons, especially those that were visiting. Purposes was to support local business, to increase sales tax, and to bring in various visitors to our local community. Total prizes was $10,000. We had a $3,000 winner, three $1,500 winners, and five $500 winners. And you'll see through the brochure, we took pictures of all of those winners at the actual participating stores. We had 25 local businesses participate within the community. 33,671 tickets were handed out. For every ticket that was handed out, that was $5 spent in our local businesses, to the tune of about $162,000. And that number just reflects the total number of tickets. There were actually folks that didn't take tickets, so in estimating, we estimated possibly another $100,000 to $150,000 in total sales, to bring the total anywhere from $262,000 to $312,000 that was spent in that time frame in our local downtown corridors. At a 4.5% sales tax, that totals somewhere, by the time you get the taxes that come off, that's around $14,000. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but that's $14,000 that was generated to go towards our bottom line to help us with infrastructure and whatever we need to do. So we want to thank We Street for helping us. I want to thank May Street for being a partner with this. I want to thank our stores who participated. I think we'll have more next year because we're going to do it again. And I also want to thank our patrons for those that came out and shopped to enjoy our small little town. That's the job of the Chamber of Commerce. That's the job of the Main Street program, is to promote commerce, promote tourism, to get people to come to our little town and to participate and to spend money. And so I wanted to highlight this program. We will do it again next year, but for all the negative stuff we got going on, hopefully this will bring a little bit of positive. I know you can't respond, but show me some excitement.
Thank you to all of our petitions from the audience. All right, moving on to item 3. If any of you want to go now, feel free, or you can join us for the rest of the meeting. Gladly have you. Consent agenda. Do I have any items that we need to remove?
J and L.
Sorry.
J, L, what did you say?
You need to remove A, he wasn't here last time.
A. Okay. Any others? If not, do I have a motion to approve all except A, J, and L?
Make a motion.
Okay, got a motion from Choya and a second from Gantier. When you're ready, call for the vote.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier, Smith.
Item A, approve the minutes of the March 4th, 2025 City Council meeting.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Trammell and a second from Rushiers. Discussion? None, call for the vote.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Abstain.
Smith, Lamar.
Yes.
Item J, acknowledge the retirement of Brandon Hawkins as a reserve officer for the Pryor Creek Police Department after 20 years of service, effective March 18th, 2025.
Motion.
Whew. I got a motion from the whole council and a second from it. I got a motion from, who had the motion? Choya,
Yeah, I'll second that.
and a second from Rushiers.
Brandon, you come on up here. So, it's not very often that you get guys that donate their time free of charge to a place for 20 years. I've been in law enforcement 24 years, and these are the first two guys that are going to come up that have ever done it, that I've seen even, at the departments I've been at. So, they've been reserves. Brandon was a reserve for 20 years. He started in 2005 with the Pryor Police Department, and he's called it quits after 20 years. So we appreciate his service. I just wanted to acknowledge them, a little bit of appreciation, you know, as far as their service and dedication to the city. And we're going to miss them. They've been good guys.
I think on behalf of everybody up here, we want to echo that gratitude. Thank you.
And Brandon does not like public appearances. His wife dragging him up here, I appreciate her dragging him up here and making him, it is real nice for these guys to come up here and, you know.
Yes, we appreciate it. All right, item, yeah, call for the vote.
Vote.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith, Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, item L, acknowledge the retirement of Kevin Philbin as a reserve officer for the Pryor Creek Police Department after over 20 years of service, effective March 18th, 2025.
Motion.
I got a motion from Rushiers, a second from Gantier.
Kevin is probably one of those guys that has been here longer than, except Captain Trammell back here. So he's been here since 2002. He's given 22 years of service as a reserve officer for the city of Pryor Creek, and we appreciate it, and we're going to miss him, but we wish him well on his venture from this point on. Thank you, guys.
Again, Kevin, we appreciate that and echo that gratitude.
Vote.
We call for the vote.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier, Smith, Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, item 4, Mayor's Report. Presentation from City Accountant Jeff Colker concerning the financial status of the city to include the status of a mid-year review.
Motion as stated.
I have a motion from
Second.
Brown, second from Rushiers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Depends on how long you want to stay here.
Do you want one?
Thank you.
Says, do I have a
So I'm here to kind of present where you are, and maybe it's not so bad news, but let's start with the first page. This is just sort of an explanation of your personal services, your payroll. you'll notice that so far for the year, this is through January, because February statements aren't ready yet. Your total personal service or payroll related expenses is about 4.6 million. You've had 16 payrolls. And so the average is 288,000 per payroll, okay? Now, with that being said, there's only 26 payrolls in a year, because you have 52 weeks, you pay bi-weekly, that's 26. So that means you only have 10 payrolls left this year. Now, if you turn the page, you will see that at the very bottom, you're under the actual, that you are 534,000 negative expenses over revenue, okay? Now, for the month, you'll notice that you are at 185 negative. And that looks, well, that looks really bad for the month of January, but the month of January had 3 payrolls recorded in it, okay? So if you remember, our average is about 288. If we had not had that third payroll, that month of January would have been about 100,000 to the good, okay? And the only reason why I say that, yes, we still had the payroll, so we're still at the negative, but we're not going to have a third payroll for the rest of the year. We only have 10 more payrolls, and we have 5 months, okay? So if you look at the next page, this is what we were at January 24. Year to date, we were behind 800,000. And this was only after 15 payrolls. So we were going to have another month at this point with a third payroll. So you are much better off than you were at this time last year. Now also, I mentioned this at the budget committee meeting, if you could be 100,000 to the good in the next for each of the next 5 months, I'm not saying that will happen, but if you could, you might actually come close to breaking even. Of course, it all depends upon maintaining your level of expenditures low and hopefully keeping the revenues coming in at a good rate. You know, of course, we can't always control that, but anyway, that is where we're at right now. So the news is relatively good. I mean, we're not out of the woods. We're still behind, but it is possible that we may end the year in a decent shape. You have a question, I can just tell.
I got a bunch of them.
Okay.
However you want to cut it, we're 500,000 over spent, right?
Currently at the moment, at the end of January, yes.
Do you expect anything to change for the better?
Well, like I said,
Not if you can save 100, because we haven't done that yet.
well, in the month of January, if it had not been for the third payroll, you would have been 100,000 to the good. I only say that because you are not going to have a third payroll in any other month for the rest of this year. Can you be 100,000 to the good for the rest of each month for the rest of the year? I don't know. It all depends upon your revenues and maintaining your current level of expenditure. I know revenues fluctuate. I know January probably had November sales tax, which means it's probably a bit higher than normal. Your use tax fluctuates up and down. I also know that you get 2 months of MEB money at the end of the year, which is going to help you. And I think the school sometimes pays most of their money toward the end of the year too, so that will also help. They don't pay. The school doesn't pay evenly. They pay, and usually at the end of the year they pay a bigger chunk, so you get more of their money at the end of the year. So I'm not saying you're out of the woods. I'm just saying it's possible that 500,000 is going to go down, and it could go down substantially. Now, will it get to zero? I don't know, and I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying you have the potential to decrease that number because of the way the revenues have been and your council has been spending less money.
Could you comment on the status of the media review?
Well, this is kind of it because I hadn't really had a lot of ability to get information. I'm hoping with the change that has been affected that I will be able to get more information, but I know there's been a lot of work involved in trying to get caught up, and so I'm kind of at their mercy. But
So what are you waiting on? Are you still waiting on information?
well, one of the stuff I was going to look at is, I needed information about the one-time, how I did last year with the one-time expenditures. We haven't gone through that. I'm not sure Hannah knows exactly because she hasn't experienced what those expenditures are. And I don't have access to all the data to go in and look all the time because I don't have the access to the system.
Cassell.
Yeah.
Do you want access to Cassell?
Well, it would be great.
We will get you access to Cassell.
Okay. I could actually, if I can look up stuff, I don't have to bother anybody. And I know bothering the personnel here right now is when they're trying to get everything else done is, yeah. Okay.
I was gonna say, can we just get that on the next agenda to get it, to buy the license?
Yes?
Does it require a license? I guess that was the only question.
It will require an additional.
Okay.
And how much of the license, like a few thousand, I believe?
Something like that, I'll look and see. I don't recall the-
Okay.
I think we have enough available right now to accommodate.
I think you,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll go.
Let's see.
We have a total of 12.
If we've got one, we'll get it to you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
I'm saving mine for B. I don't
Yeah,
know,
let's
because
do our
I'm
questions
just,
on the discussion.
only because B says discussion, and this one just said presentation.
Oh,
I'll wait and ask my question on letter B.
okay. I didn't know that.
Neither did Bruce.
That's all right.
I have a question. I'm going to try to generically say this with tact. A couple of months ago, you were tasked by the mayor to do, and I'm going to say, an internal audit of a specific subject. Is that complete? And if it is complete, or if it's not complete, will you give us a written report to the findings of that internal investigation audit?
Okay. I have not completed that. I have looked at things and I have not necessarily how's this? There were some issues with balances from a previous year. It's been kind of confusing because those numbers changed from what I had before to what they were now, and some dramatically, but I'm not 100% sure what happened. But there's nothing nefarious. It wasn't really the cash. It was just income and expenses, some changing back and forth, and I don't know exactly if it was something within the system. But we've gone through the olds. We had to look at the previous year to figure out, because some of those changes actually happened in the previous year.
So you're saying it's not complete yet?
Right, it's not complete.
Okay. So when it is complete, will you give us some sort of
Okay.
CPA auditor report
Well,
telling us what was done, the scope of what was done, what was found, if it was okay, what's recommendations that were found that could be changed, recommendations to make things different, better, et cetera, like a formal report?
Well, I can write something up, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think some of the changes have already been made.
But I'm assuming that's gonna be informal. City accountant cannot be our auditor.
Right, I can't be the auditor, but I can write something down and say.
Issue a formal audit
No,
report.
it won't be a formal audit report because I am your accountant and I can't.
Well, of this scope of work that you were tasked to do.
Yes, I can write a report that says, this is what I did.
Okay.
And this is what I looked at, and this is what I found.
Are you finding massive amounts of?
Hey, I don't know if we can
Oh,
we go
okay,
that far?
Let's go to B.
Well, no, I just didn't know if
Hang
we
on.
can go that far into it.
Let's go ahead and accept the presentation from Jeff. That'll be our vote. We had a
I do
motion
have
and a
one
second.
more observation before we move on to B. And it's not a question, it's an
Okay,
observation.
observation, yeah.
We need to be cognizant of the fact that we had a midnight session here.
That we had a what?
A midnight session here quite a while back when we were building the budget. And our goal was to not to go into unallocated reserves this year. And we never met that goal. We're still, even if we meet the budget, and we come in with these numbers, we're still gonna be burning about $500,000 into unallocated reserves. That's concerning.
Possibly, yes. I mean, if the year were to end right now, you're right, you would be 500,000 out of the reserves.
We'd be $1 million.
Huh?
We'd be $1 million.
Why?
We put 360 in there, and we needed to put 800 to 900 in there.
Right, but I'm just saying, if your revenues and your expenses are net zero,
If we come in net zero this year, we're still burning 500,000 into unallocated reserves.
but your net change will be zero, because your reserve, you won't spend any of your reserves, and your net cash won't change because you've spent what you had, therefore nothing.
Okay. I don't see it that way. I mean,
Well, I mean, if you.
our budget burned 800,000 into unallocated reserves this year, our budget. And then we only came up with a way to get that down to 500,000, roughly, just rounded, unallocated reserves. So even if we break even this year, our revenues equal to the penny our expenditures, we're still $500,000 behind where we needed to be this year and not to burn into unallocated reserves.
But I'm saying if your revenues equal to expenditures, you didn't spend, it's like you basically spent zero. You're broke even. So therefore, your budget condition should be the same.
But I believe we had the previous year budgeted more in the unallocated, and then this budget
Yes.
did not reflect that. Therefore, we have decreased our, is that what you're trying to say, Charles? Or
No.
I think if revenues equal your expenses, then you will be basically at the same position that you were budgeting last year. Because your cash balance didn't change. Because if your income and your outflow net to zero, then you didn't spend any of your money that you had in your net.
I think what his point is we over budgeted accounts. When we wanted to put more money in unallocated reserves, we put it in different accounts instead of unallocated reserves.
But you,
And if we break even, we're still going to spend that money that should have been designated for air. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess, but basically.
I understand what you're saying.
You would still be at the same, it'll still be the same position financially that you were at the end of the year.
It'll be a next year issue if you want to put it in there, you're gonna have to take it from those accounts then.
Yeah, same thing, but basically, you'll be at the same place you were.
Okay.
If,
Keyword.
yeah. Okay,
So you're saying we're gonna be all good?
no, I didn't say that. I said things are better than they were at this time last year. And there's a potential that it could be not bad.
It's relative.
But I'm not going to say that it's all good,
Okay.
okay?
Let's go ahead and vote to accept
Thank
the presentation, and then we can move on to item B.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Okay, thank you guys. Item B, discussion and possible action regarding presentation from city accountant concerning the financial status of the city, to include the status of the mid-year review.
So moved.
Motion from Gantier.
I have a pile of questions.
Second, who had the second?
I'll second.
Second from Bashir.
And with a question, since we have this discussion of possible action, and it was brought up by the city accountant that he could use the access to whatever he needs, wouldn't it be prudent we could do it here and now? Cassell?
Does it require action?
No, if we've got the extra modules or licenses for that, then we can get him one.
We can just do it.
Right.
I would think so.
Right.
Not the
If
attorney.
we have
Because I
to,
don't wanna hang you up even 2 more weeks, to be honest with you.
If
If
we
you
have
need
to-
it, I'm with Charles, I want you to have it.
right, if we have to purchase one, then depending on the price of that, we'll have to go from there, but if Lori's pretty adamant we have 12, then we'll make sure and go from there. That's not 12 remaining.
No, it's not 12. You only have
remaining,
12,
so
I think.
we'll look and see if we've got one,
Okay.
we'll make that happen. Okay. Brown, you had some questions?
I guess I fail to share your optimism on where we're at. And I understand why you're saying we might break even, but on our budget, the money that we're incoming this year, that we're bringing in, is not per se for this year's budget. It's our budget for next year. Is that fair?
Well, of course, you budget 90% of what you bring in this year for next year, but the question is you bring in money, you spend money. When you plan, you budget, you say, this is how much I'm going to get for the next year, and then you get it, and then we see, hopefully it's more than the 90%. But I'm not saying that you're going to be, everything's all rosy and, wonderful. I'm just saying that you're better off than you were last year. And then there's a potential that this 500,000 number could go down depending upon how the next few months line up. It all depends upon revenues, which of course obviously I can't guarantee what they are, and your expenditures, which I know you've been working on cutting, and keeping low. So
I don't want us to sit up here and act like things are good, though, whenever they're really not. We still have a long ways to go.
I never said you didn't.
No, I know. I'm just saying, I think that if people hear the words, things are getting better, it can be misconstrued as things are good, and they're genuinely not still great.
But getting better is very relative.
I agree, but we just have a long ways to go.
I'm not saying you don't either. I'm just saying I want you to understand that perhaps you realize your efforts are working to a point. That last year you were really bad, and this year you're not so bad.
To that point, good segue. Our revenues are way higher than what they were last year.
Are,
and our revenues last year were way higher than they were the year before. If revenues had stayed flat, we would be in a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we're fortunate that they didn't, but
You're right.
We shouldn't plan on revenues always exceeding the previous year.
You're right, but so far they have, and we will take advantage of that where we can. As I said at the budget committee meeting, and what I had said before, how are we going to get out of this mess? Well, you're going to have to do either cut expenses, raise revenues, or a combination of the both. Right now, it's been sort of a combination of the two. You have increased revenue, not necessarily by action, but because sales tax and use tax have gone up, and you have cut expenses, and a combination of the two have helped.
So the last one is probably more a question for the mayor than Mr. Colker. When we start working on budgeting stuff, do we have a long-term plan to take care of our employees? Because just breaking even year after year after year is not going to take care of our employees, and they have suffered way more than anybody on this council has through the downfall of the city's economic turn. At some point, we are going to have to change our ways in order to build in mechanisms to take care of them financially and to show some kind of loyalty to them and appreciation for them. I know I'm putting you on the spot, so you probably don't have an answer, but I think that we have to be looking long-term on taking care of our employees, and breaking even on our budget isn't going to get us there.
So, to give an actual answer what that mechanism is, let's back up just a little bit, because this is a healthy discussion that several of us have had, including you and I and Charles, things that we recognize that that's something we're going to have to look at. If that means that we're going to have to consider altering ordinances as to where some of those monies are going, whether it's some of our capital funds or street fund, whatever that looks like. I'm not going to say one or the other because I don't want to be quoted as saying this is what we're doing, right? But I think we've discussed that is something absolutely vital for the next budget cycle, is that we take care of our employees in a manner that they haven't in the past. And so I think it's going to be healthy discussions going forward, putting our thoughts and actions together as a collective group, much like we have in the past, and looking at that. But I think one thing we will all agree on 100% is that our employees are doing a great job. They're taking care of the city. They're keeping things rolling, and life isn't getting any cheaper. And so we want to make sure that we're doing what we rightfully should be and justly should be as an employer. And so I look forward to carrying that conversation on with individual council members going forward, and then carrying that on as well as we vote to whatever that may bring forward. So I know it's not like I said, I don't know what that mechanism is yet, but I do think the action to take is that we challenge ourselves to figuring out what the best solution is. Like we said, whether it's realigning tax dollars to give a cushion there, or whatever it is, we need to dedicate that.
I would really like to see us look at, there is a 0.1% in the capital, that goes to capital right now, that we are allowed to allocate by resolution of the council.
Right.
And to see what that might look like. Sorry, I don't know if I interrupted in there.
No, that was me, I interrupted you. Have we started building the budget yet for next year?
We've started looking at things and kind of allocating the actual process. No, I wanted to visit a little bit with the budget committee on how that's going to look going forward. I think a change in structure on that is going to be required this next year.
You know, one of the things that's killing us is a significant amount of our revenues, our sales tax revenues, do not go to the general fund.
Correct.
They're just allocated all over the place. I think we get maybe 40%?
47.
47%?
Yeah.
The rest go to everything else. We probably need to sit down and relook that reallocation. I know it's probably gonna have to go to the vote of the people, but a long-term solution here is relooking all of that allocation.
Well, I think it's important, I don't mean to interrupt, hopefully you're done. I think it's important to remember when a lot of those were put into place, and I know you know this, we've talked about this, the city was at a different place financially.
Right.
And, you know, our responsibility is to allocate those where they need to be. So I definitely think it's worth looking at. I don't think at this point anybody's ready to say this is what we are doing, but I do think that is very much required discussion.
At a minimum, I think we need to sit down with that allocation formula
Correct.
and relook that and send it to the people to reconsider.
So, just an observation. January last year, we were basically 800,000 expenditures over revenue.
Right, and actually, I remember projecting that was gonna be about the number that you were gonna be over at the end of the year, and I was pretty much it.
The June 24 report, basically it was little under 700,000 was what we were over. The changes that we have made over the last year or so, like, because over the course of the second half of the year, the change only went 100,000 in the right direction. So what has changed between a year prior to this council and this year that maybe we can see that go further in the right direction?
Well, like I said, you're already, just even by just looking at the numbers, you're 260,000 ahead, and that's not factoring in that extra payroll of 200.
Right.
So a lot of it is the fact that you've cut a lot of expenses, and you have less personnel.
Yeah. Well, and I know we've made a number of decisions over this last fiscal year. Some remain to be seen if they were effective. Maybe they're flops, but I know some of them were kind of geared towards helping out for next year.
Right.
But is the answer still the same pretty much as far as what we can do? Just keep cutting and
keep
bring in
watching
more?
what you spend and hope like heck the revenue goes up.
Well, I think I want to make sure that everybody understands that the conversations between the council, some of the council and myself have been exactly that. The focus on continuing to improve revenues, along with continuing to watch the spending and trying to identify anywhere that those cuts that could be made, should be made, things that we've missed. So it is a continuing conversation that's going on. And again, reiterating what was said earlier, looking positive does not mean out of the hole. We want to make sure that we're very clear, but the efforts will continue.
I just don't want, I'm not saying we're out of the hole, I'm just wanting to say that things are looking a little bit better, because I want you all to know that, your efforts are are paying off to some extent.
And to be fair, we have money in our accounts.
Yeah.
This year's budget will be made.
Oh, yeah.
We will be fine.
Yeah.
The decisions we're making are for long term. They are next year's budget or the year's, is
Right.
that fair?
Well, that's true, but you also want to make sure that this year ends as best as possible, too.
But
Yeah.
the city's not in financial trouble of not paying its bills this
No,
year. I don't
you
want to
have
give that.
plenty of cash, if that's what
Correct.
you're saying, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no problem there.
It's making decisions for long-term stuff.
Right. You can't continue at the current rate forever. It's just the way it is.
Well, and that's what you did tell the council and everybody last year was, is if it continues at the pace we're at.
It would be 2.5 years or so before you run out of money.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, I think the council heard it, we heard it, the employees have heard it, you know, it's gonna continue to be a work in progress. I don't think anybody up here will dispute that we knew this wasn't gonna be a one-year and done situation. But I think everybody's more than proven that they're dedicated to doing what's best, so.
Okay, I have a simple question.
Sure.
The first budget we did, what budget before last, we had to use, 300,000 ARPA money just to make the budget. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, then the next budget, we had to use, what was it, 900,000 of our reserves to make the budget? Is that true?
Well, okay.
Is that not what we did?
You made the budget, yes, you used,
900,000.
I'm trying to remember, you're catching me
Okay.
off guard, but yeah, but you,
550,000 of it, what are we gonna use next year?
well, first of all, you still have cash, and second of all, let's see where we end up at the end of the year, because right now, I don't think you're going to be 550 overspent. I'm hoping it'll be less, because you will have months without that extra payroll, and even if you aren't just a little bit over each budget, because even last year, in the last several months of the year, you, for the most part, you were a little to the good each month. So I don't think you're going to be 550. Now, will you be break even? No. So you still have money. I don't know how much, because I don't have that in front of me, but you still have money in the checking account. And you will have money in the checking account at the end of the year, and you will have that money. But the question is, you can't continue that for very much longer.
Is it that kind of the conversation we had about 2 budgets ago, and you told us what to do, and we didn't do it, you told us to save 100,000 a month?
Yeah, I remember that.
We saved some, finally, we
Yeah.
finally fought and argued, just kind of cut a little bit back. But can't you project what our payment is on our payroll for the year?
Well, I have sort of done that, and that's why.
What difference does it make if it's 3 one month or 4 the next, or it's all total at the end of the year?
Well, because you have to act.
Make that month look bad, I understand that.
Well, you have to actually factor in, well, okay, now I know that I'm not going to have those, so I have 10 more payrolls left. So 10 more payrolls is going to be $2.87 million.
Okay.
All right, approximately. So if my revenues are, how much are my revenues a month?
Million.
Okay, so if I have $1 million a month, then I will have excess funds, but I don't know exactly to the point because I haven't had the figures yet to calculate exactly. I wanted to give you a more accurate number, which is why I was trying to get some other figures from before, which I never got, which I will see if I can get now if I have access. But, because that's what I was doing the last year, was projecting what I thought you were going to be at the end of the year. Now, I don't, like I said, I don't think it's going to be negative 550. I think you're going to have less of a loss than that. Where exactly are you going to fall? I don't know 100%, but I do believe it'll be less than the 550. How much? Maybe half? If, you know, it could be a little better, could be a little worse. But I don't feel comfortable giving you an exact number because I haven't had the ability to get the numbers.
Well, yeah, I'm not blaming you.
Oh, I know, I'm not blaming.
You told us all along what to do, we just kind of failed to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious where in reality we're really gonna be this next budget. We're gonna be down, we just don't know how much.
Well, I'm hoping that, of course, if you broke even, then you would be basically where you were at last year.
Less than 900,000.
No, you would end.
Would be exactly where we were at for next year.
Yeah.
And still having to have the discussion of, do we want to put 900,000 or 300,000 in
Right, it would be the same
It would be
discussion
exactly-
as you had last year, but it wouldn't change the discussion. It wouldn't be worse, it wouldn't be better. It would just be the same. If we could break even. So,
How much did you say we had left in, you said what, 2.87 million in
for
payroll?
payroll? Well, I mean, if I have 10 payrolls left and the average payroll is 287,000,
Right, so approximately that. So
Yeah.
according to this, oh, that's the wrong report. Let me see. No, it's not on here.
What?
Oh, the current unexpended for the rest of the, basically for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I don't really understand those budget numbers. I'm just looking at the net profit loss sort of numbers. You know, we're at 587. My goal is, would like to see that, obviously come down to zero or a positive, but that, I'd like to see it at zero.
Councilman Smith brought up a good point about being bailed out by the ARPA money, and then another thing last year. So my question, and this is kind of towards the mayor and maybe Coker, but maybe more the mayor, is the elephant in the room cash cow that could come in, may or may not, for in this fiscal year is the sale of the police department property. And say it sells for $700,000 or $600,000. What do you think that money, or where would that go to and what would it be used for?
Well, I think we'd probably go back to that sale of, what did we call that account?
Oh, you mean the...
Trying to think of the name you gave it, when we talked about the sale of the property. It would go into our funds. I mean, that's bottom line. I mean, it'll be used where it needs to be used.
But I mean, you can put it in the general fund. I mean, actually, if you sell the property, the council can make the decision where they want to put the money. They could put it in the general fund and use it for general expenditures. They could put it in the capital outlay and fund and reserve it for building repairs, major repairs like the.
So it would be up to the council's decision where to put that money once it comes in, not
yeah.
necessarily into the general fund or to make up for the reserves that could be lost.
It would be your decision. They can, if you sell that building, you can decide where you want to put that money.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Further discussion?
Is it suitable to say when's a good time to revisit this issue?
Well, I would like to see the February financial statements before we go any further. Otherwise, we'd just be talking about the same old thing. Got an
I
idea?
just know going into end of the year stuff, should we be looking to do this again late April, 1st May?
Well, I would like to present, perhaps, if I get February financial statements, I'd maybe do an update on this to show you kind of where you're at, just so you know. Now, as far as an in-depth more look, we could do maybe end of April, yeah.
Okay.
But if I get financial statements from February, and if I can get some of the information I need, I was given monthly reports last year, but I just hadn't got the information, so I would update that monthly report.
Okay.
You'll have February financials before the end of March.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay.
Right.
So maybe late April,
I'd
1st.
say
Yeah.
the second council meeting in April, maybe look and see what that looks like.
Yes. What is that?
It's early because there's 5 Tuesdays, I think.
15th of April.
Oh, you're killing me, man.
We wouldn't do that to you, Jeff.
What about May 6th?
Let's do May. I think Jeff just had a heart attack.
You want more work?
I may be asleep at that moment in time. Anyway, okay, well, I appreciate that, yeah. Yeah. We can do that. Thank you. Okay?
Thanks, sir.
Well, I
Anything
think
else?
really at this point, the only action would be to vote to
And if you have specific questions, you know where to
no
find
action
me.
or.
I know you do. I know you can. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, do we want to change the motion to no action?
Did I make it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Second?
Second. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Call for the vote?
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Item C, discussion and possible action regarding transferring $280 from Police Department Jail Operations account 02-215-5333 to Attorney Services account 02-211-5011.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Gantier and a second from Brown. Discussion? Call for the vote?
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell.
Yes.
Okay, item D, discussion and possible action to deposit the proceeds from the sale of the PYO into a new capital outlay account to be determined.
Motion.
A motion from Choya,
Second. Lori.
second from Bradshaw. Discussion?
What would be the nature of this account?
I think when we looked at the minutes, we were going to discuss that.
We had talked about, there was a capital outlay account that I think
Right.
you and Mr. Coker discussed, and then there was discussion from Councilors Lamar and Smith about an account that had not been created specifically for Graham projects, I think, and that was what the
That
concession
was-
for the night was, we'll bring it here and we'll discuss which account we want to put it in.
Sale of surplus account 440001 or 411881 4181.
So I'd like to make a proposal. Several years ago, before I was on the council, it was, you weren't the mayor, Zach. There was a committee put together to study the PYO building, and one of the decisions made was to spend $30,000 to put a new roof on that, which we did. And I believe that came out of one of the capital outlay accounts. So I would recommend that we take $30,000 from the sale of the PYO and reimburse that capital outlay account to get it healthy again, back to where it was. Because quite frankly, we just wasted $30,000 on a roof that they came back later and said the building was not usable or salvageable. And there was even discussion about pushing it down at one point, which we did not do. And then take the net proceeds from the sale, less the $30,000, and put it into that account. But I just want to make that an original capital outlay account right again, given that we basically wasted the money.
I would have to look and see what that account is.
I went through some of the minutes, I couldn't find it. I don't know, Darla, if there's a way for the city clerk's office to
Yeah, we can find it.
automate it and figure it out.
I have a question, a procedural question. Since we don't even know what we're going to do with the Graham, is it possible that we could table this until after E and then bring it back up?
You really need
'Cause
to
it's-
have that come down, you're right.
It's hard to decide what to do with this money if we don't know what we're gonna do with item E yet, in my mind.
Want to change the motion?
Who made them?
Shropshire.
Yes, it probably will. Since we could go no action.
I
No, we could come
I
back
just wanna
to it.
table it.
Table it.
until-
Table and then come back, okay.
After E.
Okay.
I mean, where you record the revenue from the sale is not really relevant to how you're going to spend the money in the future.
Right.
When you put it in the capital outlay sale of surplus account, that's just recording the income from that. Then the council will decide later how they want to spend that money. It's a sort of a two-step. You don't actually have to worry about spending it.
I think, and I may be out of line, or I don't want to overspeak for the rest of the council, but I think the decision is to put it in an account that is dedicated to that so that they know that those funds weren't touched for anything but that. Whereas if you put it in a general account.
Of course, the capital outlay account is a specific fund for capital outlay only.
Yeah, and this doesn't actually say which one.
But it could be a capital outlay project for here, it could be a capital outlay project for there, it could be a capital outlay project for anywhere but there.
But usually on, well.
And I realize it takes council action to do it, but
I just know that when I record the sale of surplus, it's a sale of surplus, and it has nothing to do with how you spend the money. I mean, so you're basically trying to pre-spend it before you even record the sale, or pre-designate it before you even record the sale.
They're basically wanting to create an account to basically obligate that money at that time for that specific project.
Right, of course, but even if you put it in that project account, in that fund, the council can decide
Correct.
not to spend it anyway on that, so.
I think the big question is, first of all, we don't know, which is going to address the next question up, but we don't know if that building's going to be fixable. If it is, we need to have the money there to fix it with. If we use it somewhere else, we'll spend it on something else and it won't be there.
Well, I was just trying to say, if you put
it on hold, then we can look and see it. If it's not, then we'll go ahead and transfer it wherever.
But, or what you're,
Sorry, can I speak for a moment? You actually could have a line item within that capital outlay fund that designates it for that. And
Thank you, that's what I've been wanting to do.
Yeah, that's what
If it's not used for that, it has to be approved by council. If anything's gonna come out of that line item, council would have to approve something else coming out of that line item. It can be designated for that within the sale of surplus account.
Thank you.
So a sub-account within an account.
Yes, exactly. We have them all over creation. Yeah. That's what we do.
Sorry if I didn't, yeah.
but is what you're saying though, that no matter what you put it in, any future council can decide, we're gonna vote to take that money and do it elsewhere, so you're kinda like, you're making it redundant, is what it sounds like.
You know, one council can't obligate a future council, so basically, if the council action puts money in one account, council action can take the money out and put it in another account.
So I see what you're saying, I see what you're trying to say there, but it's almost like we're just being redundant, but,
No,
I mean, or is there, we just trying to make it easy to track?
It's making it easy to track, and it's safeguarding it for a specific purchase.
Well, it's not safeguarding, but it's making it
Well,
track.
it's the safeguards on it, though.
It would come up, we'd have to talk about it.
Well, yeah.
We did this all when we were talking about that long marathon meeting. We were with Jeff. He kept telling us over and over, this capital money, we can switch it and put it wherever we want to.
I'm just trying to save you some,
Yeah.
a little bit.
But-
If you do what she does, then it's there, but you don't have to create something new. It's just sort of obligated.
Charles, I see where you're coming from on wanting to replace that money for the roof, but along the same principle is that we needed capital outlay money here earlier this summer to put a whole brand new air conditioning system in there. And guess where that fund came from for that? It didn't come out of capital outlay. That came from the property, what's the name of that? Real property account, which takes care of purchasing properties and things, so.
And that's fine, I get that, but for the roof came out of the capital outlay.
It absolutely did.
So all I'm saying is let's do the right thing and put that 30,000 back into that capital outlay account where we can use it for whatever we need to use it for. And then, quite frankly, I don't care what you do with the net money from the sale. I really don't. You can put it into that special account. But to Tyler's point, we really need to have the discussion of the next agenda item before we.
I agree.
But I'm just trying to, right or wrong.
So do we
That
want
we did not know we were making a wrong.
Do we want to table this and go to the next one
Yes,
and
that's
come
what
back
we
to
were-
it?
That's what we were in the middle,
I said table, yeah.
and then you were gonna second.
Where to go?
Who had the second, you?
Was it me?
Lori?
Yeah.
We'll call for the vote.
Smith?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Shropshire?
Yes.
Bradshaw?
Yes.
Rushiers?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Trammell?
Yes.
Gantier?
Yes.
All right, item E, discussion and possible action regarding the maintenance and repair of the Graham Community Building and the use of city funds for the purposes to include but not limited to the repair and upkeep of multiple city buildings.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Charles, second from Kenneth.
So if I could just throw this out there, and I talked to Adam Anderson last week about this. You know, there's a lot of emotion, as we saw today from the petitions from the audiences, and I understand that. I think we need to protect our historical assets here in the community. But I would like to take the emotion out of this, so again, we don't spend another $30,000 on a roof that is just going to be a drop in the bucket on fixing the Graham Community Building. The mayor and I walked through that building on Friday, and I'll admit I was shocked at just how bad of shape it really was in. To include the second floor where the arts, I mean, I heard what you said where about, you know, you're looking for plugins at work, and I mean, the floor is slanted in the grand hall to the point it's visible. So I would recommend we turn this project over to the EDTA. Take the emotion out of it. Let them take a very independent, unbiased look at this to, number one, get a good estimate of what it would cost to repair the Graham Community Building in totality to where it needs to be for future use. And then number two, come back to us with options on how to do that. Because I'll tell you, spending $40,000 here on a sale, $40,000, you know, from the next sale, and if we ever sell that third building. Now, I'm not saying we should, I'm saying if we did, and we generated another $40,000, that's literally just gonna be a drop in the bucket. So I would like EDTA to go out and look for options for grants, how we could do this. I know whenever I was talking to Adam, he said he would like to actually pull Pryor Main Street into this, so they can start giving us ideas with EDTA on the way ahead. And then come back to this council with what to do. And if it's, you know, if it's $1 million to fix this thing or $2 million, at least we know what that mark on the wall is, and we can start going out for grants and you know, or other revenue sources. Because Pryor is not going to generate the revenues to do that building justice for the next very long term. We're just not going to be able to do that. So we're going to have to look for alternative actions. And Ms. Sorda, I'll keep looking at you. I mean, you good with all that? Do you have anything? I mean,
I'm Adam Anderson tonight. But
oh, okay.
Adam gets to be on vacation. I've talked to Adam about this, and we'll certainly take on whatever task you all want to give us. That's been the reason. It's nice to know that we're the unemotional group in the city. We'll wear that crown. We're willing to take that on, but you know, give us some time, give us some specific direction. I do think there's other things you need to be looked at too, just not only the cost and whether we need to do that. We can also look at, I think there may be an obligation here to take care of this building because of the gift of it from W.A. Graham and the stipulations that were put on it when he gave that building. And there was his intent to have a community gathering place. If that building goes away, there is none in Pryor.
I feel like the EDTA has treated us right before, saved us many times, and we're asking you again to save us again, give us an emotional answer.
Yeah. And so we can look at all of that.
Yeah, think outside the box.
That may or may not be, but it's been a long time since I've looked at that, but I know that's always been an obligation that was considered by the city in the past. Have to maintain that because of the gift from W.A. Graham and his intention. So we can look at that, we can look at the other items. Just give us some specific direction, maybe something in writing, and give us time to do it. It's not something we're going to turn around and give it to you in 30 days or 60 days.
Oh, yeah, I think we'll get. So could the council email the mayor with just thoughts on what we would like to see EDTA do? And I would
and I
request
will
all
throw out
council
there,
members
in
do that.
addition to that, just so everybody's aware, you know, we talked last year about looking for a block grant through whether it was Grand Gateway or through TSET, which has options for those block grants or build grants. Those grants have been significantly affected by recent cuts on the federal level, but also in changing the amounts. When we first looked at those, the the individual payout amount for the grant that we did not get was a limit of 500,000. And so we went for almost all of that with the kitchen. I think when we had that done and we had worked with local contractors and engineers and things, our total to get that kitchen back to functional, where it would meet the community block grant specifications of the grant, as a shared kitchen, it was $499,998 and some change. When we went to look at the block grant, this block grant cycle, they're done in cycles. It's not an open door where we put it in and we get it right away. It's only a couple times a year. That funding amount has dropped below 300,000 per applicant. So again, there's got to be there's got to be a real assessment on what needs to be done versus what wants to be done, what can be done, and where the matching grants are going to end up coming from.
And I think that's extremely important to look at. I mean, you may not need a full kitchen in that, at that kind of cost to be able to provide to the public what it was intended to be. You know, and you also have to look at, you don't talk, look into the future. You want to look at something more than, are there grants out there? Are there other sources of income to come and help fix it? But once it's fixed, you have to maintain it. And that's probably been the boogaboo for, you know, the last several years or the decades. It has not been properly maintained. Same issue that was with the old courthouse before we got the new one. That old courthouse had the same issues because there was not a proper money put aside to maintain it. So the issue then kind of, how are we going to fix it? It's going also, how are you then going to maintain it?
Bingo. And to maintain it, as an accountant, I'm looking for revenue sources. You know, what can we do to generate revenues off this building to help maintain it?
Oh.
If any, I mean, that's the EDTA's
I
expertise.
understand, but there may be one-time sources, I don't know. We have looked.
Right.
There may be one-time sources that will help fix it and repair it. But I think if you're looking at sources and to keep it maintained year after year in the future, goes along with the same discussions you've just been having with Mr. Coker.
Yep.
And the budget you've got to put together every year. So,
Well, you know,
we're willing to help if we can.
Thank you.
Give us a specific direction and
thank you.
we'll go from there.
I
Appreciate
think
it.
on this discussion, as we talk about the other buildings that we have, the one we're in right now is going to need some capital put into the roof. Last year, we kind of tried to figure it out. We don't know if you haven't already. I try to avoid making everybody look up because nobody really wants to. But our little spot up there is one of many that go out this way. We also had to expend some funds to replace drywall downstairs in MUB, in, of course, the ladies' restroom, right by their stall, where from some source that we've had several roofers get up and look that they haven't been able to find, we have water that is getting in. It's not every rainstorm, it's not every snowstorm, and it's much like our police station with the design of the roof that we have there. When we had and I think if you all watch Captain Trammell, when we talk about the water damage at the police station, his face will explain how frustrated he was when we had that last snow. And there was so much water damage that it greatly affected his office. He had to move everything out of the way. And then we followed that snowstorm with a big rainstorm, and there wasn't one drop of water that came through. So somewhere we have a situation that when we've talked with maintenance and things like that, and we've sent OMAG to look at that, we're hopefully, knock on wood, trying to hear back from a claim that we put in on that. But the problem is we have to still maintain these buildings like we want to maintain the ones from the past. The scenario is we got to figure out where the damage is coming from on these buildings. That's going to be a cost. So we need to keep that in mind. I challenge the council, just keep that in the back of your mind as we go forward. We can put that capital there. We can make those things happen, but it's going to have to be a discussion with the budget when we get there. This building, we don't want it, you know, right now it's our current city hall. It's in great shape, less wherever the heck this water's coming from. We've even had the air conditioning system checked to make sure it was because even at the PD we thought maybe it's condensation off of the vent lines, and we checked that. We've wrapped lines. It's not. So the next step is getting an engineer involved to say, okay, what We went to the roofing companies that have been here. What's the next step above a roofing company? Who do we go to find out where this is at? I'm just gonna say, I'm not getting on the roof. Sorry guys, I don't do roofs or else I would. Hey, Kenneth, you game? But the idea is we need to have a professional look at it. It needs to be addressed before it becomes a bigger issue. And before we end up expending more cost on something that could become a bigger issue. So just keep that in mind as we talk about that. That's one reason I wanted to make sure that we voiced that it was in regards to other buildings as well. So
Fire is a common denominator, which it's not your fault or mine.
thank you.
Common denominator, the two buildings, the architect did both of them.
Hey Bruce, they were both designed by the same company. Is that a good answer? I know that, yeah, that'll be my answer for that one.
Mr. Mayor.
Stick to it.
Could I just add one more thought real quick? I would add one last request is as the EDTA goes through this, they stay engaged with Councilman Lamar as the county historian, just to kind of get his perspective on what needs to be done, if that would be fair. I'm assuming you'd be willing to do that.
Thank you.
Terry?
Mr. Sordahl brought up a good point that right now that is our only community center that we have in the city limits, and it's a municipal facility. It is used a lot. It would be used a lot more if it was more presentable, and it is kind of embarrassing to look at sometimes when you go in there. But it is used, and it's used by the Cherokee Nation is going to use it, uses it every year for a polling place. There's parties there. There's art exhibits. It's used, and it could be used again more if there was the facility for the kitchen. But it's our only centerpiece in the community right now to have something downtown. It's used by businesses for their annual events, like Booklahoma. Right now, the Santa's Village event is held there every year at Christmas time and is a big draw for the community and a big draw to downtown. And I know that at Christmas of 2022, when Santa's Village was getting set up in there, there were several outlets in the auditorium or the hall part that did not work. They didn't have time to wait and get something done about it. Somebody made a decision at the time that was with that group to go ahead and call a local electrician company to come in and fix the stuff because the city had never done it. And that electrician did it and didn't charge the city a dime to redo outlets and things like that in the main hall. So that shows you right there that some people have an interest that they care to help it out in there. And but it is used, that's my point. And then to Mr. Sordahl's point about finding grants, and everybody wants to find grants, but I'm just going to throw this out for food of thought to think about and see if it's a legal way to do it. We obviously have the bond issue money that paid for the police and fire station. It was the intent of the council when that bond was voted on originally that the city would rack and stack what projects could be done with it and used, and they picked the library and the police and fire station as the number one priority. My question is, and Mr. Coker may have to answer on this too, the money that's coming into that bond right now obviously goes to pay off those debts, but there's also leftover money, isn't there, that's adding up in the bank for future projects?
Yes, there is some leftover from. Now, some of those and the council voted to do, were with snowballing those leases so we can get those leases knocked out and paid for, as well as combining in some of the technology and things that weren't originally in that have been added to because they were part of that building. So everything that we've done has been related to that project specifically.
So we're not saving any more for the future for other projects, we just keep adding to those leases. So
no, there's still, and I couldn't tell you right now, Terry, I apologize, I don't know that Jeff could either what that leftover amount is. It's $8,000 or $9,000, I think, a month maybe.
Right, it's not a whole lot. There was some, I don't know how much is accumulated though. I'd have to look.
Yeah.
But, and my last point is that back when we did the work on there, or did the scope of work to figure out the cost for the estimate of the kitchen, that was gonna do everything basically on that west end of the building, the kitchen, the bathrooms, et cetera. And we did have a local contractor, construction company go in and did do work with plans with I believe an architect, to help draw up some plans of what should be done and an estimated scope of work on that to include the new kitchen from scratch and everything. So hopefully we can utilize some sort of future local company like that too, to come in and give us an idea after we tell them what we want of how to come up with a plan and a design for how to fix it.
I think even using that information, the information we got for that grant was rock solid. It was,
Yes.
I believe the construction company that was brought into that for a lot of those estimates was Brewer. And then there were others that were involved in that process. Larry Williams, who formerly sat on the EDTA, kind of spirited that. And he did a fabulous job. So we are in possession of all of that information. And I agree, that's there for our use. It wasn't just for the grant and done.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we've recently asked another local contractor to go in and give us a rough idea so we know where we stand when we have to ask for bids and proposals of what it would cost to rip out those wall panelings, seal the windows, basically sheetrock back over that, paint it, prime it, paint it, seal it. And then we would also, like we said, we'd strip and wax the floors, clean that up. And then I know that they included on that new ceiling tiles, and just throw this out, if anybody's done ceiling tiles lately, the price has gone through the roof on those. The rough estimate on that was gonna be about $55,000 for that.
Just for ceiling tiles?
No, for that.
Oh.
No, if that were the case, we'd find some paint. But the idea is, that's about what we're looking at for that portion of that project. We just haven't gone anywhere yet with that, so.
Okay. So Fred, yes, if you all would let me, I would like to work with you all on that.
Well, and that'd be fine. I mean, because when we're doing some of this, I mean, we very well want some of you at the meetings to get some input, and then from you, and also to address your, I don't know exactly what bond money, and I don't know if Mr. Coker is getting ready to address what may be available. Where that would be available for this particular project, we would for certainly have to go back and look at what was voted on and what was the wording of that particular vote that approved that bond issue to see if it would apply to this building.
Thank you.
The bond fund, the sinking fund, where the bonds are paid, has, the end of January has $300,000 in the bank. Okay. So far for the year, it has a net surplus of about $70,000. So, according to the financial statements that for January that I have.
But when you say there's 300,000 in the bank, part of that goes towards the payment of the bond every month, right?
Well, that should be.
That's on
Or is that surplus?
That should be after that month's payment, so.
Okay.
They'll get the next month's sales tax and make the next month's payment. And between that, for 7 months, it's averaging about $10,000 a month extra.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask a question, and I don't mean it to be rude or coarse. But if this building is beyond repair, is building a new community center building something that should be entertained as well? Or are we only talking about rebuilding and fixing up the building that's there? I don't.
Hadn't got that far in the weeds on thinking about that.
Okay. I don't know, obviously there's some significance, but I don't know if there's huge historical significance with the building itself or just with the donation and its intent to the city, and that being the significant portion of it. And so I just didn't know if that was something that maybe the EDTA should consider, both a rehabilitation and or a reconstruction. I don't know one way or the other, but.
I think what you'll find is us looking at everything.
Awesome.
I mean, I think that may or may not be a legitimate possibility.
And those unofficial conversations between Adam and I have taken place. We've talked about what that would look like. If that building isn't, say, rehabable, what options would Pryor have for something else? And so, again, that's just, you know, I say small talk between what do we do, what do we look at. I know Bridget and I have talked a little bit about that, you know, at a lunch here or there, but those are all things that have been discussed and bounced back and forth, so.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. For example, and the school board member present, for example, sometimes we still get questions, why are you building a new football field when you have the old one? Because when we looked at it from an economic standpoint, the cost to repair the old one was more than it was going to cost to build a new one. So I think it's the same kind of comparison here that needs to be looked at.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good. Further discussion?
So what do we,
What?
I think
what's
Charles
the
has the
intent
motion.
of the-
We're just sending it to E EDTA.
Yeah, motion to send it to EDTA for their analysis.
Good. Who had the second?
I think I did. I'm good with
Cheers,
that.
yes.
Okay. All right, we'll call for the vote.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes?
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith,
All right, we go back to item D, discussion and possible action to deposit the proceeds from the sale of the PYO into a new capital outlay account to be determined.
Motion.
Motion from Brown,
As stated, but with the account number that you listed earlier. The
44 triple, if you guys will write it on there, 44 4181.
So
Sale of surplus account capital outlay.
with the information that we got earlier,
who was the second? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Charles, did you have the second?
I think I did.
Gantier.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I apologize.
With the information from Ms. Coates earlier, I would just, my motion would be that we put it in a sub-account for this. And to Charles's point, if we want to discuss the 30,000, I think that we figure out what that number was and all the facts, and we can bring that back for another council meeting. But I would say that we put it in that sub-account for right now, set it aside until we figure out what the lay of the land is with the community building.
So you're saying sub-account, sell a PYO? What do-
However, we were talking about basically wherever it sits in its own account, that we know where it came from and what its intent is unless we voted otherwise. Is that making sense?
Okay, Darla said we could put a line item under that, and so that would, is what Tyler's, I think, asking if we
Yes,
could do
ma'am.
that.
I mean, you could just have it say sale of PYO, just so we know exactly where it came from.
I don't care how it's labeled, I'm just, it's,
Sufficient. Okay,
Potential grand building refurbish or something, anything.
yeah, and then, like I said, if Charles wants, if we want to discuss the 30,000, let's just figure out what that was, and then
Can
we
you
can
buy-
discuss that later.
Darla, by the next council meeting, could the city clerk's office have that?
I'm sure we probably could. I don't know how to do it, but we know people who do.
Good answer.
Well, I mean, if you can give me the, you know, the kind of
go in and try to
the
find
date, I don't mind going in and researching the minutes.
I may
We
have,
can call Casella and they can help us do it. So.
I may have that. I'll look tonight when I
Okay.
get home. It was probably, it was either in the, I'll look it up. It was in the fall or the early winter.
It does
You
seem
asked
like
me
it
about
was
the roof?
cool and rainy when
The-
we.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood what you were asking me. Yes, we can get that for you.
it would have
Okay.
been
Absolutely.
October, November. So,
Yes, by next council. And I made a note to
23.
find it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
all right, further discussion? So,
So the language is gonna be for the sub-account to be,
sub-account PYO sell to 44
but it's to be
Yes.
earmarked for,
Well,
No,
Or
it's
not
just
in the
an
sub-account.
account.
For the, in that sub-account.
It's just an
Sub-account
account.
called
Yeah.
PYO sale.
It'll probably have a different number, but it'll be underneath that.
Yeah.
and then if we wanted to expend money from that, we would just know that that's, should know by the name or the number or whatever. that
Right.
We're just gonna have to mental note it probably for now and say, don't spend money out of that.
did we do the same thing for the gravel pit? Has that money been moved to a different account for specifically for that purpose too? Because if not, we're gonna need to put that on the agenda for the next meeting too, to address that.
I would agree.
Okay. I'll look at that.
Because I remember distinctly in the minutes, we talked about that.
We did.
Call for the vote?
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith, Lamar.
Yes.
Okay. Item F, discussion and possible action to consider the selection of and to direct members of the city council to gather information from the state auditor's office or private entities for the purpose of conducting and completing an audit of the city's finances. Discussion should give conclusion as to the scope of the audit, direction to obtain costs associated with conducting an audit, and timelines for an audit to begin and complete, then return to council with recommendations.
Motion, as stated.
Motion from Brown, second from Rushiers.
I asked you to put this on here. I'm very appreciative that you did put it on here. I think that there has been a lot of discussions that I've had with department heads and with other counselors.
It's a slow walk.
It is a slow walk. Wanting to make sure that everything is as it should be. I think that there has been some questioning as to how some accounting practices were done, and I think it's led to some concern. So I would just like, I mean, the point of this is to say, let's send a couple counselors to somebody to figure out what the cost is gonna be, and if that's a road that we wanna go down, and let them get the answers.
Well, I think if we're, and we've talked a little bit about this, you brought it up, and I think based on what we're looking for, I would like to make the recommendation to the council that be Trammell and yourself.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Can I?
As do I.
You do,
That's what I get, isn't it?
you do have a financial audit every year. Now, this one sort of got delayed because the information source kind of dried up for a while. Now that Hannah's here, I have given her a list of what is needed to necessarily complete the report so that we can give it to the auditor that does your annual audit. Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just gonna stop you right there. Whenever we come up to renew Hood and Associates, I'm a solid no vote. They are not doing justice to the city.
Well, basically said they just okay what you said.
And I have tons of red flags beyond a financial statement audit right now.
Like-
I've been an auditor for 34 years for the government. Huge, huge red flags
Such
over the
as?
last 2 years. I'm sure you're kind of in the same boat with me on some issues. One person had access to our financial records, and no one else did for 2 years. I want an independent assessment from an auditor who will come in and do, not a financial audit, but will come in and do a performance type audit.
Okay.
To really go back and dig through everything, to look for inconsistencies, improprieties, that kind of stuff. And the state auditor's office is the best one to do it, if we can afford that.
I don't think you can.
Then I don't know. I mean,
They're very, very expensive when they come in, and they will look at everything, but, I mean, they will.
I agree, they're gonna be several $100,000. But I think if we don't go with them, they will be able to give us some leads on where we need to look next.
I think we owe it. We should have done this, well, when Zach ran, he talked about the audit. We should have had an audit to give everybody new a realistic chance of what we're doing. And right now, we don't know. You don't get the information we get, so it's on this line with scriptures there. We need to have an audit to see where we're all at.
And I want them to look at the previous administration, not just the last 2 years, but I want them to go back and look.
Let me share what, I know you and I have talked about this, Tyler, you and I talked about this when you brought this to me, and several others we've talked. Here's my standpoint on this. I don't fear the audits. I think if we go by the phrase, the level heads prevail, right? The audits could be the biggest help for us. I have in my career life been audited more times than anybody ever should be audited. The problem is that when we get to the point that we are running from the audits, or we're not looking for them, we're not welcoming them, again, to Charles' point, those could create red flag. In my mind, the purpose of an audit should be to show us where our deficiencies are, to show us what we need to get back on track with, maybe some practices that we're not quite following to the T. I know one of the most painful audits that I've ever had was with the Oklahoma Tax Commission and their multi-jurisdictional forms and these forms and this, and you gotta have this. And sometimes it's nice to have that auditor come in and say, you should be keeping a copy of this, and it should look like this, and you need to do this. We can't automatically jump to the conclusion that an audit is an intent or an assumption of malicious intent. The audit should be, and our goal, everybody up here, should be, okay, in that process of learning what we need to do better or where we need to go or what we've been deficient on, I hope that's the right word, what can we hope to find? You know, we've talked about these things in the past. If you think that an audit is going to put somebody in jail, you're dead wrong. That's not going to happen. That's years of litigation and years of going to court and trials and whatever. The idea is the audit gives you a number or gives you some guidelines. And I think is that not kind of what I shared with you? My only hesitation to this was, and I'll be 100% forthright, I want to give Hannah every opportunity to get her feet in, get herself going. I know Jeff and Lori and Darla, for crying out loud, has done a fabulous job of trying to get things. We've been working with Ms. Llewellyn to get this
Purchasing policy?
Thank you. Purchasing policy.
Words are hard.
They are hard, but also I was thinking about that text or the email, what?
Yeah.
This morning at 2 o'clock in the morning from Llewellyn, and she was like, Mayor, now I think it was to some of us, but it was, Mayor, you didn't do that process like we talked about. I think that's where these audits can actually be our friend. They can help us come out. Now, again, respectfully, and I want to make this loud and clear, I think as we gather that information, and that's all we're looking to do, we respectfully allowed Jeff and the ladies to work as they've been doing to get things. We got to get our ducks in a row, and they haven't necessarily been in a row.
We ain't got the same pen.
Well, at least they're not out there with the beavers, right?
When I just see the state auditor, I know that's a highly expensive proposition, and, you know, we talk about not having money to spend on things, and then if we do something like that, that will be very costly.
You're talking hundreds of thousands of
We're talking big dollars, because this would not be cheap, especially if you're looking at going back several years.
And,
Yeah.
and my concern is more about when can they do it? Because I know there is a huge backlog at the state auditor's office.
See, I would think that you would find somebody who might not be the state auditor who could do it less and probably.
I agree. But I want to start with the state auditor because I think they will help guide us in the right direction. Otherwise, I'm going to be going through the yellow pages, if they still exist, looking for auditors.
Yeah, the state auditor does have a list of agencies yeah.
Right. And I'd like to have an office in Tulsa. We'll just go to.
Well, I understand. I just want, you know, when I see that, calling the state auditor.
I totally get what you're saying, and that's.
Well, and at the very least, then we have a number. And
We have a
we
number.
know what we
Correct.
can.
I want to make a comment along what Charles is saying. The idea is, can we afford it? But we also have to entertain the idea, can we afford not to? It's just a thought.
I'll do one better than that. I've been reading the paper every week. The state auditor just going to find so much this place. They're headhunters. If we're doing something wrong, somebody's going to get caught.
I will tell you, I will say this. Anyone can go in and sign up for the audit reports coming out of the state auditor's office. And it is amazing how much fraud they find in doing just cities of our size across the board. I mean, and smaller cities, just embezzlement happens every day. I'm not saying it's happening here, but the state auditor is very good at what she does. And that she has a team that can find fraud, waste, abuse.
I would agree.
Of course, you know, I mean, a financial audit is not looking necessarily for fraud, waste, and abuse. They come in specifically.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And they're only providing reasonable assurance, not
Right.
absolute assurance. But,
Right.
but you still, the problem I am having is with our current auditor on the financial statements is, even when I do financial statement audits, I'm still testing controls to make sure those controls would detect fraud, waste, and abuse. And I'm not seeing that right now.
I don't know what they do. I mean, I'm not here to watch them. I mean, that's supposed to be part of the audit process. You know, I mean, you could ask them if they have done that, but that's supposed to be part of the audit process. Now, we write the report, we hand it to them, they come in, they're supposed to test controls, test the balances, make sure everything, the balances are, as you said.
I can't help but believe if you haven't got the information you need for several years, or a couple of years, or whatever, that they didn't get the same information.
Well, no, I mean, I have got, the last audit finished was the June 23. June 24, we were working on it, and then it just sort of fell apart.
Oh, if they are not getting the information they need, they will not issue an opinion. So they're getting the information they need.
Well, they're coming in and they just take it, because that's what they do.
Exactly, they take it. They can't issue an opinion if they don't have the information.
See, they have the authority of the
provided.
state to basically
Correct.
weigh in, whereas a private agency doesn't necessarily have that authority. There's a little bit of a difference, but then they.
You talking about the state audit?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was talking about.
I was talking about the other one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I mean, they were getting, they should have been getting the information, otherwise they shouldn't have issued the report.
They would have issued a disclaimer.
Right, and so they must have gotten it through the 623 report, otherwise they couldn't have. But the 624, I don't even know if they've got all the information, because I don't think I have all the information. We were this close, then it just.
What happened? Why did it just poof and go away?
Why?
And whose office was responsible for that?
Well, it was the city clerk's office, and then it just sort of, we just stopped getting the information. She was busy, we were trying, but I mean, it just happened. And so, I mean, I can't come in and take it. They wouldn't know where to get it exactly, and they didn't have access to Cassell anyway. So, but still, so that's what happened. We were this close. We just needed some more invoices. I actually had given Hannah a list of stuff. I gave it to her in February, but I know she's been pretty tied up. So I'll get back with her on that. But that's what I need to finish. So.
So back to your point about wanting an audit, I think that that's what a lot of the concern is coming from, is that stuff was not timely being submitted. Even after it was submitted, there's multiple instances of things being adjusted in the past and then being readjusted. And I think that there's questions from lots of people within the city, from department heads I've talked to and other counselors, that I think that we would all feel better if we knew we were on the right line with how our procedures had been done. I don't for a second think that we have issues with current employees embezzling or anything else, and I don't think that that's it's not my intent to look for. It's my intent to go look for, make sure that all the procedures that were done in a proper manner, and that all procedures were done.
Processes are correct.
Yeah, and that they were actually done.
Right.
They probably weren't, because we're not getting the information. But I don't know if you need the state auditor to tell you that. I would start with getting the information from who to look for, but the state auditor is just so expensive.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think, the best thing they can do is tell us where our internal controls are just either non-existent or weak. So we can strengthen them to make sure improprieties are not occurring.
So Tyler, are you good with changing or adding to the motion that the council would like to direct you and Charles to gather information for
Are you giving me a choice?
this? Just asking if you're willing to to change
I open
that
a can of
motion?
worms, I'll eat them. Yes, I'm okay with that.
Change my second to that.
So we have a motion to change in a second.
To amend to accept your
Yes.
recommendation, okay. Okay, ready for the vote?
Further? Call for the vote.
Bradshaw?
Yes.
Rushiers?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Trammell?
Yes.
Gantier?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Shropshire?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that? I said, let me know how it works out for you.
All right.
Oh, goodness.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're hitched this wagon with me.
All right, item G, we'll do G and H, and then we'll take a recess before we go on to the next part. G, presentation of proposals to manage the city payroll process.
Motion.
Have a motion from Joyce, second from Brown. We got you, all right. Several recommendations came in from individuals in the city, other businesses, on who they may use. I think there were altogether 8 recommendations given, plus one local company that stepped to the plate, locally officed company. We created, with the help of that, a scope of work. That scope of work went out. We put the request for proposals to the best of our ability, as per our new purchasing manual. And we got back from all of those companies that were involved. Every one of them did send back a response. We have 3 responses. So there were multiple referrals within some of those companies. We got from Amera Info Vets, also known as AI Vet. They submitted a proposal, and I gave the council, you've got the sheets. You'll notice that I did make one change, and it didn't change the numbers. It was just a number that I didn't get on there for the third one. But a couple of things that we want to keep in mind as we look at this. It wasn't just about and it won't be just about the total annual cost. It's about the implementation period, the startup fees, what they call the PEPM, per employee per month. All of those things go into effect. And so as we look at that, these are the things that I have asked the council to look at. So basically, we'll start with ADP was the first one. We received theirs on 3/12. Their PEPM was $40.61 per employee, with a startup cost of $18,000, monthly cost of $47.3947, for an annual cost of $56,873.69. Total cost, including that startup fee, would be $74,873.69. Their implementation time was 11 to 12 weeks. The second one was received 3/13. This is the AI Vets. PEPM was $25 with a base cost of $2,500. Startup was $5,000. Monthly cost would be $62.50. Annual cost $75,000. Total out of pocket with the startup was $80,000. Their implementation time was 5 weeks. And just so you're aware, when I say implementation time, that's the full payroll implementation. That is not 5 weeks for them to show up to the ball field. There's data collections, there's all these other things that all 3 of these companies have to do beforehand. That number is based on how long till payroll is off of Hannah's desk. So if that's fair, that's what was presented to that, and based on that. So they're 5 weeks. The third was received 3/11, and it is Paylocity. Their PEPM was $29.33 with a base cost of $135.24. That was not per employee. That was just their base cost one time. Startup of $54.04.25. Monthly $4,534.74. Annual cost of $55,766.88. Total cost with startup was $61,171.13. With 4 weeks to 6 weeks. 6 weeks is a contingency if there's any issues, but they planned on 4 weeks out. So that's the presentation of the 3 RFPs that we received.
Are all of these that have about the same reputation?
Yes, all of them are reputable.
They're all vetted?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I have experience with previous employers who use ADP. They are a massive organization for payroll. I mean, companies such as Casey's General Store use them.
If you guys will give a yea or nay to accepting the presentation of the proposal.
Motion to accept the report.
I think we already have the motion, right?
Yeah.
So we're just call for the vote.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Item H, discussion and possible action to accept a proposal to manage city payroll process.
I make a
Motion.
motion to use Paylocity.
My gosh.
I'll second that.
All right, so who had the motion?
Chris had it.
Chris had the motion. Chris makes the motion.
Very intense.
I feel like that'd be a big help.
Okay, makes the motion to accept Paylocity for Bradshaw.
Yes.
You had the second? Discussion?
So, real quick, what would the annual cost be to hire an individual to do this? What, projected annual cost?
Well, you're looking at a base salary somewhere in that 45 to 55,000.
Okay.
Plus additional.
Yeah, plus benefits, right?
Benefits and things, probably closer to, Jeff, come on up, man, that's
Well,
slow walk.
I'm just asking, I know there's more cost than just their annual salary. I'm just asking because we just had a presentation over, we gotta try to get ahead 100K a month to break even, but at the same time, this could potentially save us for next year.
I have some questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
How are they gonna do the payroll? Are they gonna do it on your system, or are they gonna do it on their own system?
So, go ahead.
Please. Yeah.
This is payback, right? So all three companies will integrate into Cassell. I will add to that, Paylocity, the one that they made the motion for, actually even has a partnership with Brown and Brown that does our onboard navigator. And their system works together for that onboarding as well as the payroll side of that. And everything that they do creates Cassell reports that integrate directly in.
That's the concern. I just wanna make sure that we consider.
They've all committed to create that software and make it happen. They all work with we brought up all the details of the collective bargaining agreements, all the caveats that go there. Not any of them had any concerns about
Okay.
doing that.
I just wanna make sure that, cause the
Yes.
most difficult part will, because of the way your payroll is very complicated, is getting it into the system.
Mayor, you say that Paylocity already uses Cassell in their operation.
Their system.
So they should already have a license, or do we have to buy them a
No,
license
we won't
for
have
it?
to buy them a license.
But we would for the others.
No.
Or they would
create a
have to buy.
file,
Yes.
They'll create a file that you probably import, and then it just
Okay,
makes the entry.
but the others don't have access to Cassell, and they would have to get it,
So-
which probably would pass on cost to that to us.
No, there won't be any additional costs. Those are our proposals.
Okay.
And so, for example, if one has to create a program that will take their software and integrate it to Cassell to upload it, their proposal states that they can and will do that. And
Okay.
that's not an additional
I just
cost.
I just wanna make sure, cause I've done enough payrolls to know that
And then also
that's
making
usually
sure that
big problems.
because all of this would be managed out of house, it would not be in-house. If individuals have to come to, we are not billed for that travel. That's all part of what we are proposed is what we pay, should we accept that, so.
Right now, employees can make a phone call or come up here to the city clerk's office. Will employees that have an issue with their pay, will they be able to call them and talk to a real live
Yeah,
person?
so you dealt with ADP, I've dealt with it in the past. For example, I'm gonna use them as an example, right? They have an employee portal. Wasn't necessarily my favorite. Just put it that way, try to be respectful. It wasn't my favorite, but I could go in and report things, but also, we still have the clerk's office that we can make that point of contact and say, hey, there's a big issue, can we get a hold of Paylocity, ADP, AI Vets, and that's how that process works.
Okay.
Yeah, so my experience with it was you can go in there, look at all your information, but also find, hey, there's an issue here or there's an issue there. Generally, what I had to do was I had to get a hold of our own HR, and then they would reach out to them and work out any other issues with them. So.
And they also work with our time clocks, time and labor, so that's.
They all do?
So, and if, yeah.
Can I just ask one question? We were pretty quick to jump on Paylocity. Is there any reason to prefer one over the other three?
One of the reasons I was,
Just curious.
cost, the quickness of how quickly they can get it, because every week we lose a clerk's office employee totally dedicated. So the quicker we get it done, it helps. And the fact that they can integrate with our insurance, that means they've got all that information. It should be able to be integrated a whole lot quicker. So I think they can get, they're cheaper, quicker on the ground, running and going. They got a good reputation. There's some other people within the city that, one of them in particular I talked to, he says they've done them very well. And so that's why I was quick to jump on that bandwagon.
And I just want to be clear, all three are very reputable. They're very reputable. I think we look at the cost and the implementation times.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just asking for sake of the long term, because we're already dealing with something separate where, yeah, they were the lowest, but you kind of get what you pay. I mean, granted, they're the lowest by,
So,
not technically the lowest annual cost, but that's the only reason I bring that up.
Kenneth, did you come up and read the three proposals?
No.
If you had, I think you would have seen they are definitely the best value.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll have, so a lot of what you'll find, and all of them offer, not just call centers, the employee integration things, but they also have, they'll have training on how their system works. They're all willing to step up.
I guess they're not in India, right?
No, Bruce, none of them are in India.
Is this a yearly cost, or is this do we pay it monthly?
So the monthly cost will be
I mean, but when we're invoiced, are we invoiced yearly or
annually?
we're invoiced monthly? So roughly, we're gonna spend, after our startup and our monthly, we're gonna spend roughly $19,000 this fiscal year.
This year, yeah.
So,
Not terrible.
it seems like
It's not terrible. It's good.
no.
But you don't have to pay it up
Considering
front.
the help that
And-
they need, the clerk's office, I think it would.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, go ahead, Terry, my comment.
Well, keep in mind too, and this is where I'm hoping I'm not opening up a can of worms here. Our fiscal year is contracts from fiscal year to fiscal year. So are we gonna have to redo this again in a couple of months, or is this gonna be is it gonna be April 1st to April 1st, or is it gonna be on fiscal year?
I'm more than sure that we can get that answer through Paylocity, if that's where we go. If they'd be willing to renew.
I think Chase has said in the past, we just have to have a severability clause in there, if I remember right. But
And I will
And
add,
for bookkeeping purposes of paying our, in the new fiscal year of our recurring cost, is
So-
it better bookkeeping to do it fiscal year or?
also, we'll add
Do the
to,
year.
and hopefully this will add some direction. Every one of these companies uses like a tier, if you will, 0 to 100, 101 to 150, 151 to 200. So even though we currently, as of last week, not including the resignations that we received tonight, I did not count those. Currently, 130, 131 employees is where we stand right now. So we would fit into the 150 category. It goes up. That also gives us room to grow. I don't foresee us losing 31 employees in that time or gaining 21. So, but also I want to add too that along with that level, Paylocity specifically did offer us a discount because we use that employee navigator through Brown & Brown. So that was calculated into their discount.
And we don't want to change providers every year. That would be a total mess.
So in your motion, when does this take effect in, based on my question?
Well, the idea is to get it done. Taking a company with a 4-week lead time does us no good if we wait 2 weeks. So if the council will approve this, then we
I'll
will.
amend my motion to begin proceedings for tomorrow.
Chris, you're like my son. I didn't even finish my sentence. You don't know what I could ask. Thank you, though, for being responsive. We'll reach out to them and get that contract drawn up. I'll get an answer to your question about that, and we'll go from there. I will say, and I'll speak for Hannah tonight because her and I have talked quite a bit about it. She's reviewed all of these, and she shares the sentiment of the council. But we'll get that contract started right away, as quick as possible, so that.
Absolutely.
Call for the vote.
Do it.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Let's take a 5-minute recess, and we'll come back.
To go to executive session?
Communication with the state auditor's office.
we spent that 30,000.
You just blew out someone's speakers there, Terry.
We're ready. Oh, wait, there he is. Sorry, Bruce, I looked over and thought you were there. All right, we're gonna call it right back to order. And that's how you clean out a crowd, right?
There you go.
It's been a long day for everybody. All right, we are gonna, if we can, we're gonna jump down to item D on the city attorney's report first. And then we'll go from there back up. Possible executive session concerning the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, resignation of Kenny Bennett, 25 OS 307B1.
Motion.
Second.
Motion from Brashears, second from Gantier. Call for the vote.
Sorry. Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire.
Yes.
They're on there
Bradshaw.
together. Add
Yes.
them
Oh,
together.
here it is.
Yes.
Add them together.
Oh, that coffee smells Thought he was gonna stay.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Okay, let's go on to item E. Continue resuming regular session, no action taken during executive session.
Second.
Got a motion from Gantier and a second from Brashears. Call for the vote.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Trammell.
Yes.
Item F, possible action based on executive session concerning the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of Kenneth Bennett, 25 OS 307B1.
Motion to support the actions proposed by Chief Cantrell regarding Kenneth Bennett.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do you need that verbiage, or will you get it?
I will definitely need that verbiage.
You can give it to her later.
Or you can do it right now.
When you're ready, Darla, call for the vote.
Can I keep this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you. That'll give us a minute. Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to item A. Possible executive session regarding the collective bargaining agreements between the City of Pryor Creek and the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 116 and the International Association of Local Firefighters 3567, 25 307B2.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion from Brashears and a second from Gantier. Call for the vote when you're ready.
Sorry, give me a second here.
You're fine.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Are you gonna put that on the home?
Item B, consider resuming executive session, no action taken during executive session.
Motion.
I have a motion from Brashears,
Second.
second from Choya. Call for the vote when you're ready.
Shropshire,
Yep.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell.
Yes.
Gantier. Smith,
Yes.
Lamar.
Yes.
Okay, item C, possible action based on executive session regarding the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Pryor Creek and the FOP Lodge 116 and the International Association of Firefighters Local 3567, 25-307-2.
Motion, no action.
Second.
I have a motion from Brown and a second from Brashear. Call for the vote.
What was the motion?
No action, I'm sorry.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire.
Yes.
We will now go on to item G, discussion and possible action to rescind the vote cast on February 25th, 2025, approving the minutes of the February 19th, 2025 special council meeting.
So moved.
Motion from Gantier
Second.
and a second from Brashears.
So, Chris, I had him put this on here to rescind.
Yes, sir,
It was the special.
I'm
Okay.
aware, yeah.
We just need to redo the vote so that,
I didn't know it was all lumped together, so otherwise I wouldn't have done that.
okay, call for the vote.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire.
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Okay, item H, discussion and possible action to approve the meeting minutes of February 19th, 2025 special council meeting.
Motion is stated.
Motion from Brown,
Second.
second from Gantier. You ready? Call for the vote.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier.
Abstain.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire.
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
Committee reports.
8th of April.
Make sure we didn't miss anything. I think we got it all.
I think we got it.
We're good, I think.
8th of April, ordinance insurance.
429.
Okay. Street and maintenance.
Tuesday, 25 March.
Okay, I do have one item that I would like to bring up for unforeseeable business. With respect to the street committee and an update on the Highway 20 street rehabilitation project. Talking with Dale Burke Monday, and then asking what the status was of that project. It was supposed to start February 16th. We expected some bad weather to put a delay in. I asked Dale if he had heard from Glover and Associates, formerly known as H&G. He said that he had not heard from him, nor had he heard from him for a project that they have in Wagner, but he did know that they had a very large project in Tulsa, but they've stopped answering phones and won't respond to emails or texts. So I said, would you have a problem if I called him? Would that be stepping on toes or stepping out of my bounds? He said, good luck. So I called him. Mr. Lamar was in the room for the call, and I made sure they knew that we were on speakerphone. And I asked him, I said, what is the status? And he said, well, we're going to get out and do our locates either today or tomorrow, and that they should be done with the project by the end of the week. I went out today, and there are no locates that have been done. There's nothing that's been done. So if they're not out tomorrow, and they're not likely to get done by the end of the week, we also have the large Homestead show going on at the fairgrounds. Dale is prepared to write a 10-day letter that we will seek their bond agent and ask to review that bid if they do not meet the terms that we've asked. And so failure to complete that does legally allow us to go back in, and especially given the fact that this is a company that in the past, under a different alias, we've had significant issues with getting projects done.
We
So,
talked about that, didn't we?
so I'm not looking for any vote, I'm not looking for anything there, this is more update. Paper's gone, but I want.
That sounds proper.
But just know that if they don't show up by the end of the week to even do their locates, I will instruct Dale to go back and write them a 10-day letter to their bond. And then we'll have to revisit how that works in your street meeting on the 25th. Okay? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Brashears and a second from Gantier.
Yes, sir.
You may call for that vote when you're ready.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Rushiers.
Yes.
We will call to order the Pryor Public Works Authority. Item 2, I'm going slow for you, Darla. Item 2, approve the minutes of the March 4th, 2025 meeting.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Brashears, second from Gantier.
Can you second that if he wasn't here?
That one?
Yeah, he can second it.
He can second it. He
Okay.
just has to abstain. When you're ready, call for the vote.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier,
Abstain.
sorry, Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Okay, item 3, approve the claims for purchase orders for the Pryor Public Works Authority through March 18th, 2025.
Motion.
Second.
Motion from Brashears, second from Gantier. When you are ready, call for the vote.
Gantier,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion from Brashears, second from Gantier.
Smith,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Rushiers,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.